All right, everyone, welcome to the X No Contact podcast. With me today, we've got Branden. Say hello.
Hey everyone.
And Dylan.
Hello.
All right, Branden. So give us a little summary and we'll go from there.
Okay, so pretty much I'm a 20-year-old college student. With my relationship, it wasn't that long. We met in January and we started seeing each other, and we automatically had to go long distance because she went to a different school in another state, and it was really tough. I was going through a lot with that, and eventually I went to go see her in February, and the first few days were pretty good, and then it was the last 2 days it just was just kind of off. um, she just was really distant, wasn't communicating with me, and I could tell that something is wrong. And so I get back home after in March, and it's the same thing. She's just really distant, and I keep asking her, like, what's wrong, and she's just not giving me a response. And so I think 2 days after I got back, we FaceTimed like late at night. We were like both drunk, and she, I told her, like, like, I don't feel like you want to communicate with me. It doesn't feel like we're in a relationship anymore. And she started crying. She was like, I don't feel like myself. I think that we need a break from each other. And yeah, she ended it right there, and it just caught me off guard, really, because everything was
Now,
pretty good until that trip.
are you a freshman? Did you guys just go to college?
Oh no, I'm a junior. She's a senior.
Oh, okay. And you met outside of college, or she was younger and then she went to college? What's the time difference here?
So we actually met on Tinder, and it was during winter break. So we were back and everything, and then we started seeing each other.
Gotcha.
And then she had to go back to school when the semester started up again.
So it was supposed to be okay. So before I get into it,
Yeah.
I have a very similar experience, and it was actually one of my first breakups that actually caused me to find external contact. I'm curious if Dylan, you have any similar experiences with that.
Oh yeah, actually the relationship that brought me to X No Contact was kind of similar. Like, it was a long distance relationship. Literally went there for a trip, and again, ironic as it is, like, things were off for the last few days and we just completely fell apart like the week after.
Especially with long distance relationships, like, people say they don't work because a lot of the times and most of the times they don't. And it's not because you don't love the person, it's because, like, you have to really be around the person. Like, that's just part of a relationship. And anyway, so I just want to say that with that breakup I'm talking about, that's very similar. We hadn't gone to college yet. And it was just supposed to be a fling. It was supposed to be a summer fling. And we both knew it was going to be a fling, and that was it. But obviously it turned into something more. And she went off to college, and just like you said, Branden, she was getting very distant all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, like literally like the drop of a hat. And she called me, and she wouldn't admit that she didn't want to be together. She would just kind of like be nice and be respectful and wouldn't admit the truth. I had to kind of like get it out of her eventually, but yeah, it's really tough. Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's just, especially like with my situation, like, we're just starting, seeing each other like a month in, and then we have to you do long distance, and you just don't really have that same connection of being with each other because you have to FaceTime and text, and it's just not the same. And I found that to be really tough, you know.
Yeah.
And I had to go see her like a few weeks after we were doing long distance, and I don't know, it just was really weird how it ended like that. Yeah, it makes me sad just thinking about it sometimes.
Yeah.
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 I find with long distance, like, it's a very, not only is it tough on like a regular relationship because you're adding the strain of long distance, but you also have to focus on closing the space. um Not even in the sense of like doing it immediately, but just like, finding something that works between you two. So if it's like visiting on a regular schedule, or like I said, like, ultimately closing the space and moving closer to one another, like, that's got to be something that's in on the radar for both of you. Otherwise, yeah, it's not going to work out long term.
That's a really, really good point, because
Mhm.
especially when like you're going off to college, or you're both like in different colleges, and you can't close the space. Like there's just no way. You're not going to close the space, and you're not going to close the space for 4 years. And if you're not going to close the space for 4 years, I mean, good luck. You know what I mean? It's most likely going to end, and not because you guys aren't right for each other, but because life got in the way. And it's funny
Mhm.
that Dylan, that you say that, to close the space. Like my girlfriend that I have now, we like during COVID and stuff, like she lived like a couple hours away from me, and like we always knew like we're gonna close the space, like we're gonna close the space, and that was the goal that kept us going. Really, it kept us going, was closing the space, and we eventually did, and we got everything we wanted. And I live with her now, and we moved. So it's but you can tell like when someone doesn't really want to close the space. That's how you know. If you're in an LDR and they don't really get enthusiastic about closing the space, then I would run.
Yeah. And another key component is like you need fantastic communication. Not saying you have to have the best communication skills, but you have to have very good communication because again, things are going to fall apart. You have to communicate a lot more in at least in my experience, you have to communicate a hell of a lot more in a long distance relationship than just a regular relationship where your significant other lives in the same area as you do.
Yeah, because everything
Um
is magnified like by times 10 when you're over the phone.
yeah, like ultimately that's what ended the serious relationship that I was in that brought me to external contact is there was no communication. I suspected that she had a bit of an avoidant attachment and we could not communicate about problems. Obviously, there was like contributions that I brought into the relationship that were negative, but at the end of the day, it was impossible for me to apply any kind of reparation or do anything because I wasn't aware. And everything kind of just blindsided me at the last minute. And it's like you can't have that in any kind of relationship, but especially with long distance, like a lack of communication does not work.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I really resonate with that a lot, Dylan. Like my ex-girlfriend, she was the exact same. Like she would never really tell me what was wrong. And that at first, like it was kind of like a red flag for me, but I was like, over time, like, maybe she'll get used to, telling me how she feels. And we never really got to that stage where she would actually, want to tell me. And I just have to like at the end, like I just kept asking her, like what's wrong? Like, am I the problem? That she just never was able to tell me. And I thought that was really hard. And then doing long distance, like breaking up over the phone, like you never really get that what's the word for it? Like you just can't get that good closure of seeing them like one more time.
Yeah,
It's such a horrible, painful way to break up with someone. But yeah.
Yeah.
it's hard. Yeah, because it's not going to be in person. Um, but yeah, like at the end of the day too, like it doesn't reflect on you or anyone. Um, their inability to communicate doesn't reflect on you at the end of the day because they couldn't tell you what they needed or wanted out of the relationship.
Mhm.
Yeah. Brandon, you said that you were surprised at the end, like when she was acting that way. I'm curious, were you not as much surprised as you were just like shocked that it was happening?
Yeah, I would say shocked because like I mean, the last few days I was there, like in my mind, like in the back of my head, I was just thinking like, maybe she is thinking about breaking up with me. Like she could drop me off at the airport and, just break up with me right there.
Hmm.
I just I had that thought in my mind, but I just didn't want to really believe it.
Yeah. I feel for you, man. I was there, and I know I kind of know what you're going through. I can't say I exactly know what you're going through, but I kind of know what you're going through, and it
Mhm.
sucks.
Yeah, I I vibe well with the airport part because that's exactly kind of the same thing I went through. Is like the goodbye was just so off, and I was like, yeah,
Yeah, like
something's not right.
like we were sitting in the car and like I was the only one that was sad. I could tell that she wasn't really like sad or like having any emotions. And like
Yeah,
I'm just like, damn, like am I the only one that's like really like sad for this? And I had texted her like the flight's about to take off, and I never got a text from her. I landed and I said, I texted her, never got a text. She didn't text me until like hours later, and I could tell that like something was off because I mean, obviously she's gonna ask me like if did I have a good flight or not, and I just never got that. And I don't know, it's just kind of alarming to get that.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was with me, my ex, when she went to college. It was just like you said, like right when she left, like the moment, like before she left, in my situation, like we were both crying, and it was like a huge thing. But as
Mhm.
soon as she left, like right when she left to college, like radio silence, nothing,
Mm.
just
Yeah.
nothing from her. I even sent her shit, and she would like barely even. She'd wait like a few days after she received it to be like, "Thank you," and I'm like, "What do you mean? Like we're together? That was 3 days ago."
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
when we first started, like the communication was great, you know. Like I would do like the little things like send letters, and we'd FaceTime like a decent amount. And, you know, just those last few days of the relationship, like I wasn't getting that back. Like she would not respond to me anymore, and it just didn't feel like a relationship at that point.
Yeah. It's really eerie too how fast it happens because it's just like you just blink and they're a completely different person and their behavior change and you start to question yourself and everything around you like you're almost it's like your whole it's not like you're being gaslit but it's like your whole reality is just completely upside down and you don't understand because in their heads this person has been thinking of this probably for days, weeks, or even months about stuff, but they're not communicating that with you. So you're out of the loop. You're completely left in the dark. So when that shift happens, like it's such a complete blindside because you weren't expecting it. You didn't really see the signs because, like I said, you two really aren't on the same page at that point because there's a lack of communication.
Yep, 100%. And in that way, they're liars. I mean, that's why you don't recognize them anymore. That's why it's like you're looking at a totally different person, is because they're not showing you who they are 100%. They're hiding something from you. They're holding back, and that's holding back. I think is just as bad as lying. You know, it's shit communication. And so when that happens, that's why you're shocked and you don't recognize them, is because, like Dylan just said, it's they're not communicating.
I think it's obviously I wouldn't wish this upon anyone, but I think it is a good life lesson to be in, or at least to have the experience with a bad communicator, because then it kind of helps you weed out people who aren't great at communicating, and you can either confront them about it, or you can just say, "Hey, look, I don't think things are going to work out," and you move on, and you try and find somebody who's going to be able to work with you as a partner, because I'm sorry, but relationships are not a rom com or some fairy tale. Like 90, I'm not going to do a statistic thing, but the vast majority of it, if you want a good relationship to work out, communicate, be honest, don't hide stuff. Like it's not easy, and you're gonna have to be you're gonna have to be honest in a sense where you have to understand that it might hurt your partner, not because you want to hurt them, but because you have to give them honesty. Um, I think people romanticize the concept of honesty and kind of turn it into like it's all sunshine and rainbows and blah 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 blah. But at the end of the day, like there are some hard pills to swallow with being honest with your partner. And again, it's not to make them feel bad. It's not to hurt them. It's something you've got to do at the end of the day. No matter how hard it is, you've got to do it.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can have good communication is if you realize the pros and the cons about doing it.
It's a team thing. It's not a you thing and a her thing, or a you and a him thing. It's a team thing. You guys are both one entity, and I think honestly, Brandon, I don't think you communicated either. I think that you should have told her, "Hey, look, I'm kind of." Did you tell her? Because I could be
Oh
wrong.
yeah, that yeah, like throughout those last 2 days, I would tell her, you know, I don't feel like, you know, so I know that something's wrong, and like I don't feel like we're in a relationship right now. Like it just feels like something's off. And
That's
I was
right.
trying to communicate with her, but she just wouldn't give me like a real answer until the end.
Gotcha. My bad. You're right.
No, you're
Yeah.
good.
So awesome on her end, dude. She's not the right one for you. Even if she didn't go to college, she's not the right one. If someone doesn't respect you enough to tell you the truth, even after you're trying to open conversation and trying to be like, hey, we're together here and something's going on and I just want to like make sure we're on the same page. And she has the balls to like take a plane and not say shit to you. Like that's not someone you ever really want to be with.
Yeah, like dude, like I literally sent her a text of like pretty much that, like I'm here for you, if you want to talk to me, like I'm here for you, like I love you. Didn't get a text. I had to like text her like hours later, and like I just knew at that point like the relationship was like damn near done.
And she's
That
treating
just
you like
sucked.
she doesn't even know you. She's treating you like you just met on Tinder again. And she's like didn't
Exactly.
respond to your Tinder message. Like, but it's not like
Mhm.
that. That's awful.
Yeah, it made me feel like horrible, and yeah, it's just like damn, like this is how you're gonna do me, like I don't know. We got pretty close, like within that time span, and then just losing her like so fast. It sucks.
Dylan, would you say that like going through all these breakups, like and stuff and breakups like this, do you think that your tolerance meter has like gone way down? Each breakup just brings it further and further down. Like you have less and less patience and less tolerance for bullshit.
Yeah. How would I explain this? See, because like I'm kind of going through the thing with the gal I was saying, and it's weird because like now I'm completely over them. Like within a month. Um, but yeah, I just like the first breakup that brought me here. Like obviously my tolerance was low because it it brought me to X no contact. Things were done as dinner. Um, and I really had a tough time figuring out my self worth because when you get broken up with, you're gonna question your self worth regardless of how secure you are of a person. Um, the more it happens, the more like the more breakups you experience, I think the more you're gonna learn about yourself, but about other people. You're going to look into their actions a lot more deeply than their words because a lot of the times their actions and their words do not line up. They just don't.
Mm.
And you're gonna have, like you said, like yeah, I have a very very low tolerance for that now because at the end of the day, like if they can't match those two things, that's not on me. That's not on anybody. That's on them.
Also, because you've
Like
been burned like hard many times, and
yeah.
right, yeah,
So yes, it does provide like it does give you that tolerance after a while. It's still gonna hurt, but it's not gonna hurt as much, and you're gonna be able to pick yourself up and shake the dust off your coat and move on.
yeah, you're gonna gain respect too for yourself. Um, After you start healing from this, you're gonna respect yourself more than before you went into it. I guarantee you that. And by the way, I just want to mention this. Sometimes you just are not compatible, and that's the only single one reason why you can't be together is because you just are not compatible. Sometimes you're not compatible, and that's just it. Sometimes college or travel or work gets in the way, and again, that's just it. You have to just take that for what it is and stop blaming yourself, saying that you did something wrong. Maybe you did. Maybe you can learn from that. But for the most part, there are life situations that will get in the way and that will end your relationship single-handedly. I think that we need to recognize that.
Absolutely. Yeah, like kind of continuing the point. Sometimes you meet people at the wrong time and it doesn't work out, and there's really not a lot you can do about it. Like things would have been different if the circumstances were different.
Yeah. Since we're going to do long distance within like a month of like actually going out, like I just felt like we kind of rushed into things really, like because I knew that I didn't have like all the time in the world to really connect with her and everything, and it just kind of made me want to just be in a relationship and just rush into things. And I think that was a big problem with everything. And if I could go back and like I had more time, like I would definitely see this person like differently. than how I did, you know, rushing into the relationship.
Easier said than done, though, right?
For
Because
sure.
once you're in it, that's all you want to do is be with them 24/7, and it's almost like logic just goes right out the window.
Yep.
Mhm.
All those happy honeymoon phase chemicals in your brain just start pumping, and yeah, all of that logic definitely gets thrown out of the window, as John said.
Do you think that if you had Brandon, do you think that if you had done something differently, that maybe you would have stayed together?
Um, Honestly, I don't think so. Like I tried to do as much as I could. But you know, in the end, like it's just her choice, and I, you know, I can't change that, you know. That's what I've come to realize, like, you know, after the breakup, I just like blaming myself, like, oh, if I did this, if I did that, but you know, it's not on me, you know, it's her
No,
choice, and yeah.
Yeah, especially
you
since you communicated.
you learned a really valuable lesson at your age, and that's just like, people who, again, if they can't communicate and if they're avoiding about issues that they have with the relationship, then sometimes there's just nothing you can do about it.
Brandon, I know you're in the thick of it right now, like it's really weighing on you, but do you have any advice for someone who might be going through something similar?
I would just say, don't don't blame yourself, really. Like that's what I did, you know. The first and like the whole month of March, like I was just horrible for me. Like I was just blaming myself. Like I was kind of depressed, like I had kind of suicidal urges, really, and um I was just blaming myself. And at the end, like you just have to love yourself. Like in order to love someone, like you have to love yourself. And I think that's the most important thing that I took away from it.
Well said. Yeah, I think that's a big part of it is self-respect. You know, if you respect yourself enough, then these kind of things won't destroy you as much. And like you said, you went from like suicidal thoughts to then realizing like, wait a second, maybe it's not me. Maybe I'm not damaged. Maybe I need to respect myself more. And that means not respect them because they don't
Mhm.
respect me.
Yeah, like my life is bigger than the situation, you know. Like it's not the end of the world. Like I'm so young. Like I'm gonna have, you know, several relationships, you know, in the future probably,
Mm.
and I can't just keep looking back on this one that didn't even last that long, and you know, at the end just failed. So it's just learn from the past relationships and just take it into new ones.
Mm. You make a great point when you say it's a situation, a life situation, because
Mhm.
there's a huge difference between your life and your life situation. And what this is a life situation. And like you just said, it's not your life. Your life is bigger than that. And these relationships, they come and they go, but they're not your life. They're just your life. It's just your situation. And like you just said, they can change and they will change. And you 100% will have more relationships in the future. And you'll be more prepared to find someone more compatible with you next time because when you see someone who acts like your ex, you're going to be like, fuck that.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
I, you know, I'm really excited for the future, really. Like I don't want to look at the past anymore. Like that's what I just kept doing like the past few months, and it just makes me feel horrible. And like looking back at the past, like it makes me want to reach out to my ex. And in the end, it's just not good any like every time. That's what I've learned myself.
well, yeah, because it's like, why would I reach out to my ex? Like, you would just be hurting yourself.
Yeah, because like like just having that person, like you're just like kind of like addicted. It's like a drug, and
Mm.
you just want to relapse and just trying to talk to them, even though they've hurt you. You don't care. Like you just still want that connection because of that void that they've left. You know,
Yeah. And that
that's how
drug,
I felt.
100%.
Exactly.
That drug that you mentioned, well, there's some parts to it, but a part of that drug is self-respect, self-esteem. I think that when it becomes a drug to you, I think part of you relies on them to feel good about yourself, and that plays into it as well.
100%. Like when we broke up, I just lost all my confidence and self esteem. Like I had it before, and I just feel like I put everything, like all of me, into that relationship that I didn't give time for myself. Like I used to work out before, I used to be active, and I stopped doing that and just gave all of my energy into that relationship. And once it ended, like I felt like I had nothing, and like I had no motivation to do anything.
Yeah, that's how you know it's kind of a codependent relationship.
Hmm.
Yeah. You don't realize how much of your personal time's gone once until you've broken up, and then you realize you're like, holy shit. Like, look at all the things I gave up. Like, if you're working out, or, if you're giving up your hobbies, or if you're not hanging out with your friends as much as you used to. And yeah, like a healthy relationship, you're still going to be able to do those things, but you can still make time for your partner. If your partner is demanding so much time for you that you can't do the things that make you you, you probably might want to self-reflect that and maybe communicate with your partner on that kind of thing before it kind of goes too deep.
Hmm. And also at this point, once you're healing from the breakup, you have to, like, especially if you're kind of learning how to respect yourself more, you have to actually practice and work on that. Like, for example, what I would do is I would, when I wanted to like get back my self-esteem and get back my self-respect and sort of come back into my own and be grounded again after my breakup, what I would do is I would, it sounds corny and people say it all the time, but take yourself on a date. What that meant for me was like, if I want to do something, I would do it. I would, what I would do? I would go to the grocery store, I would get ingredients, and I would make something. I would cook something. I'd find a recipe online. I'd cook something. And just that simple thing, like just getting food at the grocery store and cooking something new, that made me feel like I was the shit. Like I felt like I was a king. And like just doing things for you because you want to, going somewhere because you feel like it. If your friends don't want to come with you, that's fine. You're still going to go because you want to. And then once you start doing things for you and only because you want to, then you start to realize like, wow, I really am important. And like, I should be treated like I'm important and people should treat me with respect. But you have to practice and like do it over and over and over again.
Yeah,
Oh,
100%,
agreed.
honestly. Yeah.
Even just like take a trip by yourself and check somewhere out. Like that's a great thing to do, and I've done that a few times before, and it's helped me actually kind of gain like more independence in general because they'd be like, oh, like I gotta go on a trip with a buddy or like with a significant other, but it's like no, you can just go on your own. And like what I did is I stayed in a hostel when I went on a trip one time, and I just made friends with people at the hostel, and I had a great time.
You went by yourself?
Yep.
See, that's a great point because there are times when I would go to the bars and I was like so afraid to go alone. Like, you can't go to a bar alone. Like, you'll be weird. People will think you're weird because you're there alone. And
Oh
I was
yeah.
like, fuck that. Fuck that. So I went to the bars alone. And I'll tell you, I had a better time. I swear to God, I had a better time going to bars alone than I did with buddies because you don't feel judged. You don't feel like you have to fit in with anyone. You just have to be yourself.
Yeah. Plus, you're not pressured to like, all right, we're hopping to this bar now. It's like, nah, I don't wanna.
Yeah. It's way more freeing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. So, Dylan, can you update us on your situation?
Um, I mean, honestly, like I've just had more realizations of what kind of person they were. Um, like with the last person I was seeing. Yeah, like I don't know. It's almost like it's just weird.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I saw a certain side of them. I hate to say it. I reached out to them because it was regarding something I wanted to know that was weighing on me heavily regarding if I needed to pay them back for something that they got me, and I felt like for me to probably move forward in a healthy way that I needed to take care of this. And yeah, like I wouldn't recommend it to many people because again, this wasn't a serious relationship for me. It was something like I was just seeing her and blah blah blah. Um at the end of the day, the definition of what the relationship between us was didn't match the actions, if that makes sense. But yeah, kind of going back to the tolerance thing, like I saw a side of her that I wasn't particularly proud to see, really. And it kind of just opened things up for me, saying, you know what, this really is not a good person for me. Um, so yeah, like I'm really over it.
Yeah.
Like I said, like when you go through so many breakups, you're getting valuable life experience. You're seeing things that you want in people or that you don't want in people as a partner. And once you start, getting that experience on your belt, your self-worth just goes through the roof. Not saying like you're the best thing on the planet. We all have flaws, but at the end of the day, like you can be truly more appreciative of the people that come into your life, but I also think you're able to appreciate yourself more and realize that you don't need a relationship as a end goal to be happy.
Yeah. Well
Yeah.
said. Branden, what part of the world are you in?
I'm in California.
And you are on college break?
About to. I have finals right now.
Okay.
Today's my last day. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So if you're in California and it's going to be summer, I mean, I'm not saying to hurry up and get over it, but like, dude, you got to go like take advantage of the summertime.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, I already have a trip to Vegas planned out.
Let's
Nice.
After my
go.
birthday. Yeah,
There
I'm
you go.
excited.
Oh,
I
that'll
think-
be
I'm
awesome.
gonna go with my friends and
Yeah.
just get away for a few days.
When my long distance relationship ended that brought me to no contact, I think the best thing for me was going on a trip. Me and my friends went to Halifax for a weekend, and honestly, like, it's probably the best thing I ever did to kind of like lift my spirits. And from there, I just, as the kids say, I popped off. Like, things were just getting better and better. But yeah, trips are so nice because it kind of just like you kind of forget about the issues at home that are bothering you, and you just kind of, you're just in the moment of exploring this new place, and everything's so exciting and new. It's fantastic.
Yeah, you realize there's a whole nother world. You go, oh my God, like all my problems at home, like there's a whole nother literal world over here. And there's all new people, all new things, all new smells. Like it's a whole nother experience. And then, yeah, 100%. Because then you start to realize, like, wow, maybe my problems weren't as big. Like maybe there's so much more in the world that I want to see. Maybe like I'm like in 0.0001% of the world. And like there's just way bigger problems in the world, not to minimize yours, but there's just more things in the world.
Hmm. Just different things to experience, really,
And people.
and just closing
Yeah.
yourself off to that situation. It's just not healthy.
I'd say, yeah, like definitely the people thing is the big thing because like when you're traveling and obviously we're in a pandemic right now, so I would highly advise not to stay in a hostel. But once things clear up, I highly recommend it because you're kind of forced to socialize with people. And that was the best part of the trip is like me and my buddies met up with these awesome Aussies and these Germans and like all these people from across the world. So it's just like an international hotbed. You're exposed to so many experiences in a different city. So it's great. You just
I've
kind of
always wanted
realize
to
like
say.
I highly recommend it. Yeah, once things are, I'd say, safe to do so, highly recommend it at least once. You don't have to like it, but I think everybody should experience it because it's just its own experience. It's great. Yeah,
I think
like
Vegas is also an awesome idea. Sorry, continue.
yeah, I think when you say, oh, there's like more fish in the sea and blah blah blah, like people are like, no, like there's nobody like my ex, and it's like, well, it's true, but there are people who are far better than your ex, or they have different qualities. Like there's just you can't compare them because yeah, they're not the same person at the end of the day. But once you're exposed to more people, you kind of realize like we are in a big world. Like people don't realize it because like sometimes sometimes I'm kind of blunt with it and I'm like, look, like statistically there are millions and millions and millions of people that you are probably compatible with to date, and that vice versa. But people don't kind of realize it because they're everybody's stuck in their own social bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
But traveling really like breaks that bubble. It breaks that comfort zone which you're in, and it exposes you to like, oh yeah, like there's so many people out in the world. Like I'll be okay. I'll be fine.
Let's be honest too. Like whether you're a boy or a girl, you start crushing on someone, right? And they're all you can think about. And you crush on them, and you crush on them, and you crush on them until you find the next person, the next boy or girl. You crush on them, you crush on them, you crush on them, you crush on them. And then you find the next person. That's just how it goes. Like it's always that this one person is so special, and then all of a sudden the next person comes. And that's just how it is.
Hmm. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's not even to invalidate what you had with that person, but it's like, guys, gals, folks, whatever, like there are other people out there that will make you feel good and feel happy,
Mhm.
and you can do the same for them, and you can mutually enrich your happiness. Now, like I always say, you have to go into a relationship happy. You have to know what makes you happy, and don't don't let a relationship determine your happiness. If you're unhappy just because you're not in a relationship, that ain't it. You need to
Yeah.
kind of delve deeper into that, because a relationship cannot be the sole source of your happiness. That's not fair on the other person. Enrich it
Yeah.
by all means, but if it's the sole source, it's not healthy.
I think also if you're looking for a long-term relationship, if you're looking for someone that you want to just like be with forever, and a lot of us are, you can't just rely on like, oh, well, they're so pretty and like I just really like them. Like you need to have what your ex didn't have, which was the balls and the guts to communicate, to work on things, to work through things, to stay on the same page always, and to just put in the work that is necessary. And if you, like I said, if you want to find someone that you actually want to stay with, you need to make sure that they are mature and that they put in work. Because once you get older and your priorities change a little bit, you don't look for like the shallow things anymore. You look for, are they flaking on me? Are they respectful to me? Do they communicate with me honestly? And are we on the same page?
Yeah, I'm kind of happy that this happened to me. Like I'm obviously not happy that it, ended this way, but it just gave me more of an outlook on what I want in a relationship, and just experience gaining from this relationship. Like I thought this was pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you think she learned?
I don't know.
Probably nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you have to, like, especially for the people who aren't able to communicate well, I do hope that they learn something at the end of it, because at the end of the day, it's not healthy to bottle everything in. Sometimes you don't even intentionally mean to do it, but the more it bottles up, the more you keep that in, or the more that, you know, you need to tell somebody something, but you don't, and it just bottles up and it turns into something more and more ugly, because those feelings are dwelling inside that person and they're sitting on it, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. It's a snowball effect. And then
You know
once it
what,
comes
too?
out, it's just far worse. Like, just get it out of the way early.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's also awkward. It's super awkward to communicate. Like it's weird. You don't want to you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to get anyone upset.
No.
You don't want to be the
Mhm.
one to put yourself on the line and look awkward and look like, wait, what are you talking about? Like you don't want to be on that hot seat. You don't want the pressure on you. It's awkward to open up. It's awkward to communicate. But yeah, you just got to power through that. You just got to do it. Like like she probably just the fact that she hasn't really communicated with you at all tells you that she just didn't. She was afraid of communicating with you. And yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
she in the beginning, like she kind of told me like, "Oh, I'm not the type of person that really expresses my feelings
mm,
and stuff like that." And I was like,
that's awful.
maybe she can work on that. I kind of brushed it off, but
Well, she won't. You know why? She won't
yeah.
work on it because she said that that's who she is.
Hmm.
She just identified with it, which is a horrible thing to do. Is say, "Oh yeah, I'm not the kind of person to dot dot dot." If she says that, "Oh, I'm not the kind of person to say how I feel," dude, good luck.
yeah.
If you think that's who you are, which it's not who you are, but if that's what you think, wow, you got some work ahead of you.
Yeah, so
People,
I just I wish her good luck with finding herself and just working on herself in general.
yeah, people like that they won't be happy long term. I know it's hard to be open and vulnerable. Like, I mean, like for me, at times it is, because definitely like through the experiences I've been through, yeah, my walls do get raised up quite a bit, probably more than the normal person. But at the end of the day, too, I know that with the right person, I know I can not have any walls and be completely open and vulnerable. But yeah, it's like when people do that, when people say like, "Oh, like I can't express myself emotionally because I don't like it," we can't read their minds. Nobody can read your mind if you're not telling them what's wrong. And some people, like, from what I've noticed, is they have kind of like they hint that something's wrong. You know, maybe it's the tone of their voice, or maybe it's their mannerisms at the time, or whatever. That's not communication.
Hmm.
We know it's hard, and like the reason why I'm telling this is like if you can kind of vibe with what I'm saying, you're not a bad person. All right, I don't think anybody here thinks you're a bad person, but it is something that I think you should reflect on, and I think you should work on, whether it takes you self-reflecting or if it takes, you going to therapy. But it's something that's going to be not only beneficial to your partner or to any kind of relation around you, but it's going to be very beneficial to yourself, and you're going to feel better. You're going to feel better just being able to communicate what's wrong instead of letting things grow and grow and grow until it gets really toxic. And it has a much more negative effect than it would have if you would have just talked about it from the start.
That's a really good point. And when people say like, how do you get self-confidence? I don't get it. Like there's just all these like things like positive affirmations. Like, how do I get, I don't know. Do I read things in the mirror to myself? Like, no, what Dylan just said, that's how you get self-confidence. You put in the work, you work on yourself, you see what's wrong, you find the flaws, you target them and you work on them, like hell. And then the self-confidence will come. The self-esteem will come if you just work on yourself, because you are worth working on. Branden, I want to ask you something, because you mentioned that she told you that she wasn't a good communicator, but you were kind of hopeful that she might like open up if you just waited, or like maybe she just kind of throw you a bone eventually, like she just kind of eventually change. And I think that we are all guilty of doing that sometimes. Like we think, oh, they can change. Like they'll change. Like I believe in them. Like I want them to succeed. And I'm sure you really did. You really wanted her to like do the best she can and communicate and open up. And you wanted her to like be happy. And I think we all do that. But at the same time, with the tolerance thing that I was talking about with Dylan, it's like, that's a huge red flag, and that's when you get into the territory of trying to fix someone, and you're waiting on something to happen that you have no control over. And most of the time that just ends up crashing and burning.
Yeah. Like, in the beginning, she was like, "Oh, like I want to change and open myself up to you." And, for like a Valentine's card, she was like, "Oh, like I want to," she said that. And, it just never really happened. Like she never put in the action,
Yeah.
and that's what went wrong.
And it's kind of like anything, like for instance, people with addictions, whether it be to substances or gambling or anything. The big thing about those people, because I know a lot of people want to save those people. At the end of the day, the only person responsible for saving them is themselves. They have to want to make the change for themselves, because at the end of the day, they are accountable. It's as I preach in in the X No Contact Discord. You want to go no contact. You want to heal. Nobody is accountable except yourself, and this applies to the same for these people who you may get into a relationship with, and right from the gate you see that there are some potential problems. Maybe they can't communicate, maybe they could be more honest, and you give them that window of opportunity to work on those problems, and you're there to support them and all that. That's okay. What isn't okay, however, is when they're not making progress, and the only things that are being done are just words being said, but there's no action to back up those words. If they're trying something, for instance, if they're trying to be a better communicator, or if they're trying to not push you away due to their insecurities, which is something I went through in when I was seeing the last gal that I was seeing, is she would push me away due to her insecurities. Just gonna like kind of give a brief run through to kind of give some substance to what I'm explaining. What happened was it would literally happen every few days. And, she'd like, okay, maybe we should stop talking because like just a whole variety of issues, like I don't deserve you or just etc. Just lots of insecurities. So at that point it was me like trying to, validate how she felt, try and reassure her. But it got to the point where it was the definition of insanity. It was literally the same thing happening over and over and over. And when it gets to that point, you got to ask yourself, how many times can I keep doing this? It's like watching an alcoholic go back into drinking and just getting drunk every fucking night. Like it's just they're not helping themselves. So what I would suggest for maybe people dealing with that is that work with them, but in a way where, okay, obviously what we're doing right now isn't working. Like obviously, you're not going to be able to do this with your ex-partner, but for the next partner, this is more or less like to see if they're actually going to work on their problems. You try and figure out together a way that they can do something like something alternative to see if things are going to work out. Because if you're just doing, like I said, if you're doing the same thing over and over again, that's not healthy. That's not a sign of things working. There has to be something different into the mix for that problem to get fixed at the end of the day. And as anybody, it's not your obligation to fix people. It's on them. You can be there to support them, but at the end of the day, you can't fix them. You can only help. You're their cheerleader. That's it.
Yeah. I like that you mentioned it's like gambling or being an alcoholic, because I think what people are chasing when they're being like that, they're chasing the mystery of closure. Is there going to be closure? Are they going to break up with me? Are they not? Is there hope? It's this question mark. It's the will there be closure? Who knows? Let's bet. Let's go all in. Let's see. Let's find out. And then you don't get closure, like Branden, you just said. She broke up with you over the phone, and that wasn't really closure. But but the thing is that you have to close it yourself. Like it's not, you don't wait for closure. You close that shit, baby. That's you. You close it. Like you just decide right now, like, I'm gonna close it. I'm pretty done. Bye. Like that's it. That's your closure. Not them. Don't rely on them. Don't gamble away, see what's gonna come back. Because then you know what? It's just not worth it. Like if you want closure, you really want closure, do it. Like close it.
You do have to do that. And I just want to like reiterate too, because obviously like when I explained earlier that like I broke no contact, this wasn't in the sense for me to get closure, but something that was bothering me, that okay, like I can't give myself that closure unless I deal with this now. I don't think reaching out to your ex is going to give you closure. More times rather than not, it's just not, because that is something at the end of the day that, again, like what John just said, like you're gonna have to give yourself. Your ex cannot give you that. Your parents can't give you that. Your friends can't give you that. Only you can. And how you go about getting that is up to you. There are many ways to do it, and there's many variable situations and other variables that get thrown into the mix. But at the end of the day, nobody's gonna give you that closure. Nobody's gonna just slide the answers to you. You have to figure that out yourself. You just have to really, like, in my experience, you just have to forgive and forget and move on. You know what? It's another day. The world does not stop turning just because you're not over your ex.
Yeah, with that, when she broke up with me, she kind of left the door open and she was like, "Oh, but I still want to see you in May." And yeah, that never really gave me the closure, because it's just like, do you want to see me? It's just like, like, why are you kind of playing with me?
I'm sorry, but she's a bitch.
Yeah, it's just
I'm sorry.
Her saying that like just really like messed with me. Saying like, "Oh, I want to see you when I come back," and Just like
Yeah,
why?
if she
What's
really
I
cared about
texted
you,
her
she
like,
would.
you know, like what yeah, like, I texted her like what's the purpose for you to actually like see me? And she was like, oh, like we'll find out like when we see each other. It's just like,
Oh no.
yeah.
That's not how it works, you know? Like, at the end of the day, she made the decision to break up with you. And as much as it hurts to have people leave your life for you to, voluntarily remove them, like, at the end of the day, that's the risk you take. You know, if you break up with someone, they are not obligated to stay in your life for whatever reason.
hmm And I like a week after the breakup, I removed her from social media, and after that, she was just mad at me. It's just like, how could you be mad
Hmm.
at me for wanting to remove you from my life when you're the one that broke up with me, you know?
If you guys weren't in a relationship together, like if you guys weren't boyfriend girlfriend, then all of this would be fine. Like if she was to text you and be like, "Hey, you'll see," like when I come back, like wink,
Yeah.
wink, like that's fine. But if you guys were in a relationship, that's effed up, my dude.
hmm Yeah.
And then for her to
It's
like act like, "Oh, how dare you like unfollow me" and all stuff, it's like like she knows why you unfollowed her. She knows why all this stuff's going on. She knows exactly why, but she's panicking because she doesn't want to lose that support system. You're making her feel good too. So like by you saying like, "Yeah, I don't know if I want to do this with you anymore," you're threatening her.
Hmm.
mhm.
It's not really fair to impose such a vague stance on that either. Like, even if you're like not even seeing the gal, like, it's just, I don't know. I think that's kind of like the way she said it was very immature because there really wasn't any substance to it behind it because it was kind of like, maybe tee and that's it. And like,
hmm
what the hell kind of answer is that? Like, say, hey, like, know, give something with a little more oomph, not oh yeah, we'll just see.
Yeah. She was like, oh, we'll
That
see.
just
We'll
shows.
grab coffee and we'll see.
Yeah, that's just not how it works in the real world.
That just
Yeah.
shows exactly how seriously she took or takes it now. That's how seriously she takes your relationship. Is
Yeah.
tee hee maybe that's how much she like fucking cares right
No.
now.
And you know what? You're not obligated to be their option, and if she wants to put you on ice, that's fine, but you don't have to put her on ice. Move on.
Yeah, she won't
hmm
give you closure at all. She'll run you to the ground, dude. She'll keep you around her finger until she finds a new boyfriend.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I haven't talked to her in like almost a month, I feel like, and it's just like every time like we communicated, it was just awful. And, yeah.
No, it just reopens the wounds.
hmm
Yeah, you have to like. I'm not gonna say that you can't have anything to do with your ex after, but I do highly think that if you do intend to reestablish communication, you should be completely over them and feel nothing but platonic feelings. And even then, I wouldn't necessarily put all your eggs in the basket of like reigniting a friendship or having the expectation that that's going to happen because time changes people and you just might not even be on the same page at that point. Um,
Yeah, I find it. People say like you can be friends with them, like you just said, like after a while. I don't find that to be the case with me. Maybe some people can. I think that's really hard because you guys like had sex together and now you're like out for coffee as friends and it's kind of I don't
it's
know.
Yeah.
it's very different for people. Like I'm kind of mixed. Like I think it depends on the dynamic that you had with that person. For a serious relationship for me, like there's so many problems that come with it. Like I'm very mixed on the stance. Like some situations, okay, I could kind of see that working out, but then in others, I'm like, absolutely no way in hell would that ever work out.
Hmm.
Um, Everybody's got their own comfort level, and again, like I find people tend to treat dating and relationships as very black and white when there's just a lot of gray in the middle. Like, yes,
Hmm.
I'm sure there are black and white ends of it, but they're very, very tiny compared to the middle that's completely gray. Some things work for people, some don't, and
Yeah.
there's going to be different situations that work for each person differently. So yeah, it's best not to think about it too hard and focus on what works for you and that person, not
Yeah.
what people are telling you. What works for you? What's going to make you feel good and make you feel like you can be the best you?
I think also, and this might be just a personal opinion, but if you find when you find a new girlfriend or boyfriend, I think that if they have a problem with you talking to your ex, I think that you should take that seriously, because I think that's a genuine
Oh, absolutely.
thing that people like don't like. I see people all the time, like on the server, they're just like, yeah, well, I talked to my ex and they have a problem with that, so F them. And it's like, no, like kind of F you, because like if you really love this person, like, do you really need your ex? Like, and they may be your best friend, but like this person is your lover and they were once lovers too. And they don't like you talking to them, and that's fine. Like, that's understandable. So, and that's my opinion.
I think they got to realize that they can't have their cake and eat it too. In my personal beliefs, I think it's fair to impose whatever boundary that you're comfortable with, but at the same time, you can't expect people to accept your boundary, nor should you. People who respect your boundaries, that's great. That's fantastic. That means you're more compatible. But, you know, at the end of the day, like, there will be people who are absolutely best friends with their ex, and there is nothing you can do about that. If that makes you uncomfortable and it makes them uncomfortable that they would have to excommunicate with that person, right there, that is smacking you on the forehead saying you two are not compatible.
100%.
There's not an easy compromise for that situation, so the best thing to do, just walk away. You're going to find people with the same boundaries and compatibilities as you versus this person. They're a great person, but they're not the one for you at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to leave this off because we have like about 10 minutes left, I'd say. I want to leave this off on a positive note. Branden's going to Vegas, so that's actually dope. When are you going to Vegas?
July 15th. So it's a few days after my birthday.
Oh, hell
I
yeah.
turned 21, yeah. So
Oh, wow.
crazy.
21 in
Yeah.
Vegas.
Yeah.
Dude.
Go crazy.
Nice.
Yeah. Also, like, turn off your phone. Yeah.
Yeah, like I just want to get away and just enjoy myself with my friends and just experience Vegas, because I've been there before, but with my parents, and it's just obviously it's not going to be the same. You know, being alone as 21.
No, now it's the adult version of Vegas.
Yeah.
And you said you're a junior, right?
Yeah, I'm a junior. I'm about to be a senior.
Yeah. So, I mean, and just keep in mind, like, if you find someone this summer, like, obviously, hey, you know what? Maybe if this is a fling, it needs to stay a fling, and it needs to just stay a summer thing. And maybe, hey, you know what? Maybe you might find someone who actually is compatible with you and actually communicates and who does want to be with you and who's around the same age, and you could wait a year, and then after college you could move in together. Like, that's fine. But I think that with this girl, as poorly as she treated you, I think that you're better off now, and you have more knowledge about like where to go from here.
Yeah, I've definitely healed, like, just over the course of the 3 months, like, just being comfortable with loving myself and just not having to rely on her to give me happiness. Like, it makes me feel good.
Yeah. Well, all right. Any closing remarks, Dylan? Anything you want to say?
Honestly, I think I've pretty much got everything I can think of out of this podcast so far.
Branden?
I would just say stay true to yourself. Don't change for anybody, or don't force your happiness onto the relationship. And yeah, just be confident in yourself.
I love it.
That's
I think
a great
this
one.
was yeah, awesome. I think this was a great podcast. So, Dylan, where can we find you?
At the Discord, as per usual. I'm always there.
And Branden, you're on the Discord too?
Yeah, I'm on the Discord.
And I'm also on the Discord and the Telegram. And if you go to xnocontact.com, we have links to the Discord and the Telegram and our Patreon and this podcast. On the Patreon, you can donate, I think it's like $9 a month, where you get a Discord role. It's like a special role to use our special Discord bot. And you also get, for that $9, you get to have your questions answered on our podcast, one per episode. So if we do like one a week, you get to have your like one question a week answered. But yeah, come join the community, man. we're here. We're here 24/7. We're all talking. We're all supporting each other. X No Contact is my baby. It's a great community. And yeah, thank you, Branden, for coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And thanks, Dylan.
Yeah, not to worry. It's nice talking to you both.
Yeah.
All right, guys. See ya.
Take care.
Bye.